Right, so we should be live with good guys. This is Stickbug. I'm here with Brett and Lord Knight, is our special guest tonight, to talk about the ARC system work cycle, something that has plagued our community since ARC system works has made games, I guess, and tournament seeding. Tournament seeding is a topic that kind of popped up today. Brett and I have talked about this in the past. Not necessarily what Leffen said in his tweet, but other things. But we'll talk about both, just because both topics are pretty interesting. So, yeah. Actually, let me start a timer. That worked pretty good last time, Brett. Actually.
Yeah. Well, it's 6:07, so.
Yeah. But
I leave it up to you.
I like just looking down and being like, oh, okay, an hour has passed. There we go. 1 hour, go. All right. So, Lord Steven.
Yeah.
Stevie B.
Yeah, maybe we should introduce Lord Steven.
Do we? Okay,
I kind of want to hear you do an introduction.
for Steve. Okay, so Mr. Lord Knight here, Steve, as we call him, or Lord Stevie B, is a sponsored player by D-Link. Still sponsored? Yes? Stevie B? Stevie B. Disconnected? Is he gone?
He says, uh-oh.
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 Lord Steven.
Well, you can continue introducing him.
I'll still introduce him.
Yeah.
So anyway, Steve is a sponsored player by D-Link. He plays mainly anime games. He's a very good friend of mine. Probably one of the reasons I tried to start taking fighting games seriously was getting bodied by him in Melty Blood way back in, 08, 09. Placed at many tournaments. He has won many tournaments. I value his opinion greatly, but he cannot talk right now. What the hell, Steven?
Well, while we're waiting for Steven to rejoin, maybe you want to go into some more detail about kind of what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, since I don't even tell you really beforehand. It's pretty great, actually, how organized I am. But the first thing is the ARC system work cycle. So this is something that is almost meme status within our community, in that.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, you're back.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Wait, you're like dropping in and out. Steven. He died again, didn't he? Rest in peace, Lord Steven. You shall be missed. Oh, wait, no.
I wasn't on what? I kept fucking dropping.
Oh, okay.
Now we're good.
All right.
Yeah.
So I introduced you. You are Lord Steven Bartholomew.
What's up, everybody?
Sponsored anime fighting game scene player.
Yes.
Winner of many tournaments.
Yes.
Master of many games. My good friend. And I highly value your opinion, which is why I invited you on.
Cool.
I can get people on and have them talk. That's great, but you're one of the few people I will listen to, and it's great because Brett's the other person I like to listen to a lot. So have both of you on the same show is pretty nice, actually. So, so the ARC system work cycle. You're obviously very comfortable with the subject, yes? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is something that kind of started rearing its ugly head with the introduction of BlazBlue.
Uh-huh.
Because when BlazBlue started coming out, Guilty Gear kind of took a back seat in terms of developer support. We didn't get Plus R until what?
2013, I think.
13?
12 in Japan arcades, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so BlazBlue hit us with this update cycle that was so fast and so offset of the arcade scene that it was hard to pin down which game people really cared about. So CT was released in arcades. It was not out on consoles for a very long time, not until I think July of that year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or later that year because it came out in November. So we got it that summer, and then shortly after that, CS1 was in arcades in Japan. Only a few months later, I think in the fall.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this was still back in the day before Nessica, and people were still importing the cabs from overseas. So you still had a few local scenes and arcades that would import the cabs. So they would move on to the next version, not play the current console version. So our tournaments would end up dying for an extended amount of time until the console release came. And then a couple months later, the same thing would repeat itself. Now that we have Nessica, it's not as bad. But there is sort of a stigma still where people watch the arcade version of a game and they are drawn to it, and that's all they look forward to, so they do not play the current version of the game. This hurts our scene as a whole. And
I think just to elaborate a little bit on the whole meme thing is like, there's definitely that entire concept of like, I'm waiting for X game now, you know. I mean, I guess it's not necessarily ASW, but I definitely think it's an anime fighting game community thing where it's like, yeah, I'm done with X game. I'm waiting for Y game to come out, right?
Yeah, exactly. So people will just even drop a game for a game that is not out yet that they cannot touch. Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely the joke.
So, okay.
Right.
What are your strong opinions on this subject? Do you feel like people are justified in their I don't know, laziness to pick up the current version waiting for the next version?
To be honest, you can't. It's like a bad thing, I think. You can't. It's one of the weaknesses in American anime for sure that so many people will stop early while waiting for a new version. I never like agreed with that. Like I was always like one of the last people playing a current version while waiting for a new version. And the thing is like, what's the point of waiting? If you're trying to be good, like if you're just casual, then you can do what you want and that's fine. Like I can't stop you. So if you're a casual player, oh, I want to play like new character or like just screw this game till new one comes out, then new one comes out, that I can't stop you. Like, but if you're a tournament player and you're not and you say you're serious, but then you're like, oh, I'll wait till the next version. And if that's
you're
not
not that serious.
If that's not your feeling the whole time, so for example, for BBCP Extend, I haven't played the whole version. Like I haven't even pretended to play that game. Like I only play at tournaments. So I was just like, I don't want to play this version. That's different than playing a version, then seeing a new version and just dropping it and be like, oh, I'll wait for the next version. But I play tournaments. And that's not good, I think. I think you're holding yourself back when you're doing that. You're missing out on a lot of potential experience. You're missing out on potentially leveling yourself up. Like, I just don't get the point. I don't see the point, really.
Yeah, a lot of characters don't change. Well, as far as Guilty Gear goes, characters, or I guess I can't even really use that as a I would say character strength generally stays the same. There are a few times in BlazBlue's history where characters got the wheelchair treatment pretty good, where they were at the top and they dropped. But for the most part, characters stay the same. I should say stay the same. So by playing the current version, you're still playing that character. You're still getting good experience with that character. The matchups will change slightly, but I don't think they will shift completely. So
Yeah, exactly.
Steve brings up a good point.
Blaze Blue, the character strength can change a lot, though. I don't really know so much about Guilty Gear besides Exerd, where like they didn't really touch characters balance at all yet. With Blaze Blue, the character can change a lot, and the character strength can change a lot. Like I played Lychee, everyone knows I played Lychee till CP, and each version of Lychee is drastically different. So maybe one Lychee play like, well, they're gonna change her so much, there's no point to play her next version. But you're still the basic skills of the character still carry over, even if the character like stuff like combo routes changing or like new special moves, that's whatever. Like you could still work on your overall skill and comfort level with the character until the new version comes out. I can't really speak for Guilty Gear because Exer, like, there's been no changes to character balance, like, barely any significant changes to character balance.
Yeah, I think before, like back in PS2 days, characters actually did move around the tier list quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, especially if you're looking from something like Reload to something
Yeah.
like AC. That's a pretty big difference, but
Yeah, it was before my time, but I've only heard, like stories of characters and how good they were. And I'm like, wait, that character was actually like good in Guilty Gear? Like when I hear that Robo-Kai was broken, I'm like, when? When did this happen? Or like when
yeah.
Soul was really good. Like when the hell did that happen? Things like that. Because I was used to the Eddie Unblockables, the Testament Neutral, the
Jamunga, the Mayunga.
the Jam. Oh my God, May. Oh my God, May and Accent Core. Jesus Christ.
I wanted to touch a little bit on what Steve was saying earlier, though, just about how he was saying it's not good for you as a competitor, and I agree. I think it's even without discussing like balance changes or any of the changes. It's just like the idea of dedicating yourself to a game, a build like that game. I think is drastically different than like a series or a genre. And I think it's a distinction that's maybe getting more and more obvious as like new games and new reboots come out, and like we're constantly having new versions, right? But it's like, yeah, they're compared to like, say people who are playing Third Strike and they've been playing Third Strike for, however many years now. It's like, I think just dedicating yourself to that one version and really trying to master it is, yeah, I think you're missing out just on that experience as well.
Yeah, that's true. Because we still have people like playing Plus R that improve. Third Strike's a very good example. I wonder if Street Fighter 4 will be an example.
It's a good
in the years to
question.
come.
Strike
Yeah.
is a really good example because like look at Momochi. Like Momochi's a Third Strike player, and now he's like the best four player. He was the best four player pretty much at the end,
Yeah.
and he's a very good five player. But he was originally Street Fighter Third Strike, and he played Third Strike through. I mean, someone might have to correct me, but through most of Street Fighter 4, at least he was still playing Third Strike.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, he started the first time I heard of Momochi was Super because he played Cody, and then he kind of dropped off for a while, and then the Ultra he just came back, or not maybe if not came back, but like maybe tried harder or put more time into it. Like, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I wasn't aware of the original version of Street Fighter 4 at all.
Yeah, so I just wanted to try and get people thinking or try and motivate them to kind of, I don't know, really dig into the current version you have access to because it's going to carry over into the next version. I mean, you might be looking forward to a character. Like, I mean, I was really looking forward to Jam, to use myself as an example. I didn't really play a whole lot of Sign after Ramlethal was nerfed because that was like the only character that I really liked in the game. And I'm really bad at neutral, so having to think in neutral all of a sudden like was not fun. I think I lost to Bryce's Potemkin for like 3 hours straight, and I was visibly frustrated. And I think he was just like, "Yo, Alan, just like don't play, just chill out, like go do something else." So I kind of like stopped playing and looking forward to Jam, and then Jam comes and I'm like disappointed. And at the same time, I feel like an idiot because I really have not been playing Exert for a whole year because of that. So I've lost out on learning what characters do. Like if I had to play a Leo right now, I could probably pick Leo's like worst fucking matchup, learn that character, and still get my shit pushed in by Leo. Just because I've never played against the character before. But I could have been playing against that character with like Soul or Kai for the past year and gotten experience. So, I mean, take advice from me, like somebody that's fucked up like this, and just play the current version. Try and find a character that clicks with you, even if you're looking forward to another character, just to get experience with the game, and so you can learn what other characters are capable of. It'll help you out when that new character comes that you're looking forward to. It'll make you a stronger player.
Do you
for
think?
sure. You gotta-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because like you gotta look at how many players like they don't have their character and they're just like playing Soul or Kai while they're waiting. Like Mochi Soul, like isn't he a Bridget player? But he's playing Soul. And Soul's mad good. But like Hawk
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he played Plus R Soul. Do you
He
know?
did not. I think he still played Bridget. If I recall.
So yeah, that could be a good example. You'd have to ask him though, like if Bridget came out, like would you play Bridget?
Yeah, I think he is a pretty interesting case because he's definitely like all Soul now, and I don't know if he would actually, go back to playing Bridget if he came out. That's a pretty interesting question though.
But sorry, what were you going to say, Brett?
Oh, I was just saying, with regards to the concept of the cycle, then, like people have mentioned that the state is kind of improving with the releases being a little bit better. Do you think that this is going to be a state that we're constantly going to be in? Do you think that things will get better? What extent? What do you think about that? Looking forward.
So I think that I look at this from very far back, like high up in the air, like pretty much Evo is the focal point, and until something else becomes the focal point, I'm going to use Evo as that. So I want to think like what would make Evo Exerd the best thing possible, and that's of course giving us the most time with a version, right? Like the Japanese got Revelator what in November, December? Before that,
August.
October, August.
Yeah, because remember there was Array Jacko Halloween stuff.
Wow, was it really August?
It's been a while, man.
So you have to think like the Japanese have had this game for 10 months now.
That's a year.
Like that's ridiculous. And we've had it for you could say like what, a month? Yeah.
Yeah.
The main problem is we don't have as much experience with the new system changes, especially Blitz.
Yes.
And Hell Blitz.
Yeah.
Hell Blitz,
And then also, depending on when you started Guilty Gear, so like when I talk about Revelator, I'm like, oh, I gotta learn 3 new matchups. But then Brett would like, oh, I gotta learn like Jacko, Johnny and Jam, old. But I'm like, oh, I gotta learn 3 new matchups. But at the Common Breaker, everyone's like, no, you gotta learn 1. It's Jacko. I'm like, I don't know shit about Johnny and Jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we have Raven and Tuner.
And whoever is number 3, who's gonna come in, who knows?
Yeah, there might be an announcement in the Evo. That would be my guess. That wouldn't surprise me. So, yeah, I mean, I think it could get better, but it would only get better if Arc System Works shifted their cycle or made the gap between arcade and console shorter. That's the only thing I have. So I think it could get better, but it's totally out of our reach in regards to that. But I think people could still play the most recent version and learn from it regardless.
And in Exer's case, 1.1 is almost the same as Revelator. It's just if you're not playing a new character, the only difference is system changes.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I was still playing 1.1 net play after the demo came out.
Yeah. So with regards to this topic, I'm curious what you guys think. If you think it's related at all, the idea that Street Fighter Five is kind of doing this a little different now, where they have no arcade version and kind of Japanese players are on the same equal footing as America. Since we were talking about how Japan has the game earlier than us for Revelator, and that's obviously a pretty big advantage. So, what do you guys think about that?
Sorry, say that again.
I was just saying how Street Fighter Five is basically
Yeah.
not doing the same kind of thing anymore, and what do you think about that?
Yeah. No more arcade release.
Do you like that? Do you agree? Disagree?
I personally love it. As long as it's executed correctly, like SF5 has just been kind of a shit show with that. So if like Arc System Works were to follow in the footsteps of Capcom, like in 3 feet of snow, like we just took every step exactly the same, and Exert turned up the way Street Fighter V did, I'd be disappointed. I don't think Arc System Works would do that, but it would be bad. I think it's a good concept. Capcom just kind of dropped the ball on it. Do I wish arcades would just go away? That's hard for me to say. This is like one of those hard questions that I don't like answering from you, Brett. Kind of like on the podcast last night.
I'm sorry.
I think in the grand scheme of things, with the way video games are going, arcades will die eventually. So making the jump sooner rather than later will be good. I guess that's my final answer on that. Like, yeah, even though I love arcades and I love the culture that comes with it, I think it is probably time to move on out of arcades and just be console exclusive with fighting games in order to take them to that next level of like notoriety. I don't know.
Yeah, and
That's how I
like
feel about it.
simultaneous release is a good thing, I think, for competition. Like it's always shitty. Like remember Persona, the original Persona? There was only like a month gap between arcade and console. And look how good that first Evo was, honestly. Besides me getting my back blown out by Yume, all the other
That was a sick ass Evo, like for real.
that was honestly a really good tournament. Especially because 2 out of the top three were U.S. players.
Yeah.
Like when it's simultaneous and everyone's growing at the same time, and like with the internet and stuff, that when the time thing isn't an issue and the game is released simultaneously, the competition is a lot better. And I really like that as a competitor. I don't like the excuse of we don't have enough time. But like if you're taking something like Guilty Gear, like for someone like me who started really seriously playing with Xrd and having to play catch up and stuff, and not only with the way the game is played, but then also the versions, it's just shitty to have that in the back of your mind. Like I don't have that in the back of my mind, but I'm sure some people are like, when they run into a Japanese player, like, oh, this guy's been playing for 10 years, he's been playing this version for longer than me, and I think that's just kind of cruddy.
Yeah.
So I actually thought about Street Fighter V that it was released simultaneously everywhere.
I really like the point you're making, that it's not necessarily about whether or not we want to complain about, but it's like it would be nicer if we didn't even have that as a thing, we just didn't have to think about it at all. For sure.
Yeah. We actually talked, or at least I talked with Axis Mike about this briefly, and I think like Cliff Notes conversation was him like not getting proper time off or rest for like a couple months was the reason that we got a simultaneous release on console. So if you wanted to thank someone, I'd probably thank Mike. And he says it's very difficult.
Wait, simultaneous release for what?
Remember how when Sign dropped on console and Japanese in the US got it at the same time.
Oh, right.
In terms of that, that's hard to do just because of the localization aspect of it
Right.
from Axis perspective. So
Yeah.
I think
Always
if
gotta-
thing, but I think if things shifted away from arcade a little bit, I think that would improve.
Yeah, to have more time. Stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah,
there,
'cause
like,
I don't know how the localization process works.
There's no English voices in Revelator, apparently.
Wait, what?
There's no English voices in Revelator, apparently. I don't know if that.
You're talking about the JP one?
I thought it was just period.
Yes. No. So I think it's the Japanese version is not dual language like it was
I know,
last
that I
console
know.
release. So I'm pretty sure the US release has. Oh, you mean like voice acting? Shit.
Yeah.
I'm not
Voice
sure.
It's got to.
No, I'm pretty sure at MomoCon they said there's no English voices.
Oh, yeah, Peter confirmed. He says they are not doing English voices, period, for Revelator.
Wow. Okay.
So, is the American Revelator just like subtitled for story
I
mode?
guess it's subbed. Yeah.
All right.
Wow. Okay. Well,
That might
we don't need
help
we
out faster.
So, can
we
I
don't need-
download like the story mode on Nya like as an anime then? Because I don't need the dub anymore, and I don't really want to have to buy the US version. So, anyone out there, if you're like a fan subbing group, hit me up. I want that torrent.
Way to go. Way to go, Brett.
No, Brett.
All right. But let's move on to the next topic. I think we did pretty good on this one. So next topic, no real segue other than it's the next topic.
Wait,
but
can
tournament seeding.
can I slip in one final question about this? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
one final question.
It's an important question.
Okay.
Do you think that this is a subject like how we've talked a lot about the ASW cycle, but I just wanted to like kind of expand that to just anime in general and those kind of cycles, like the idea of like cycling between games and games like dying, because that's actually what I thought you were originally going to talk about is like games.
Well, that's part of it, but I wanted to kind of keep this to the ARC system works. But go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's good enough.
Okay. Yeah, there is that other, like driving force of other games that we touched on slightly, but yeah, that's like a variable you can't control. Really.
For sure. Yeah.
So I think as long as you keep it within the same game, I think it's easier to talk about. But as soon as you start throwing in other games that are on totally different times of the year when they drop, it's hard. That's something that will always be random. And I just wanted to try and keep it to something you can control. That's all. Okay. Tournament seeding.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. So let's start out with the troll, I guess, the troll part of seeding first. And that is earlier today, Leffen made a tweet. Do either of you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
No,
Do you know? Oh, really, Steve?
I wasn't on Twitter all day.
Oh my God, dude.
That's probably a good thing.
Where? Can you find this tweet?
Yeah,
for me?
go ahead and talk about while I bring it up.
All right. So, I don't follow any professional smashers, but it's very like the reaction that the fighting game scene has when a top smasher says something is very fast because I guess a lot of people follow it. It's like the reaction is instant. So I know somebody in the smash scene said something and it was probably stupid, right? And then I finally see the tweet, and Leffen pretty much said, when is getting seated at a pool is going to be more of a thing?
He said,
I just get burnt out.
Yeah, I have the quote here. It's, I wonder how long it's going to be until tournaments let us qualify to skip pools. It's going to be necessary to prevent burnout, in my opinion. If people want top players to go to multiple majors per month, do side events, exhibitions, commentary, and fan meets, it has to happen ASAP.
Okay, so I can give you a
Lord
little
Stevie
background.
B, thoughts?
I can give a little background about that. So
Okay.
before, I guess I guess it's pretty common knowledge in anime games that I used to play Smash.
Hmm.
Uh, and during that time, in my probably peak of Melee, or right before I really started to peak out and get a really high level in Melee, there was MLG. MLG supported Melee. It's like 2006, 2007.
Hmm.
And what you could do, the way their tournaments were set up is you let's say it's me. So I had no points. So if you have no points, you'd go through these amateur pools, and if you win in that, then you go to the semi-pro pool, and if you win the semi-pro pool, then you would go to this pro pool, and you would have a lot of points. So if you had a certain ranking, you didn't have to play the amateur or semi-pro pool. You would just be in the pro pool. You won't have to do shit to a pro pool. So from Smash perspective, this is a long time already accepted thing that's been done before, but it just hasn't been done for a while because like now that MLG cross melee is not really a thing anymore, they don't do that. But MLG does that like did that regularly. That was a thing. If you had a certain amount of points, you didn't have to play amateur at all. There are some people like for example me, I got to semi-pro level, so I didn't have to
Okay.
play amateur pools. I could just show up, chill, warm up, and then after a few hours, I could do the semi-pro pools. So, and of course, there would be the case of like, let's say a super top player like Ozan or something. He would show up. He had, of course, no fucking points because he was on hiatus. Shows up one day, wins his amateur pool, wins his semi-pro pool, and then wins the tournament from amateur pools. That's pretty hard to do. And of course, he was fucking exhausted after that. But that's a thing that existed in Smash before. So to fighting game players, that's like kind of ridiculous. Like the most we get is like, oh, a nice, friendly, easy pool that's like free if you're like a top seed.
Yeah.
But you're not expected to just be dumped into top 32 or top 64 or whatever. You're still expected to go through the pool. It's a very fundamental difference between Smash and fighting games, traditional fighting games. So that tweet isn't too ridiculous if you know Smash, but it's like obscene if you know fighting games. If you're only
Yeah.
like a fighting player, that tweet is retarded. But if you know
Yeah.
Smash, you're like, yeah, like why don't we do that anymore? Maybe that's a good idea. Like the scene is bigger too. Like all this shit. It might sound it sounds pretty reasonable from a Smash perspective, especially knowing the history.
That's a good
So,
perspective
do you,
to share with us. Yeah.
yeah. So, do you think in order to pull something like that off, would they have to start from like ground zero? You think, and like start tracking tournaments now, or do you think they'd be able to get like a good like pool pool standing
Are you talking
from
about
the
Smash? Or are you
past?
talking about like fighting
Yeah,
games?
Smash.
They already
Smash.
have something like that.
Yeah,
They
Smash
already
is actually the most meticulous about all that stuff.
they have that 1 to 100 power ranking, like top
Yeah,
100
they're
Smashers.
on that.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's more like
that tracks
the
tournament results. That's the thing.
people.
They
No, but
tournament.
I'm saying like I know they used like tournament results as that. It's still done by a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah, the rankings is like opinion, like part opinion, but it's they use tournament results to determine it though. So like there's no way that like the number 20 guy has the results as the number one guy. The number one guy has like Armada. What he won Evo. He won a bunch of like big things. Like the number 20 guy has not fucking won Evo. You know, like you can
Yeah.
use that basis at least kind of thing. Uh,
Hmm.
that's I'm sure if fighting game people are mad about that, it's because it's never happened in fighting games. That's the number one thing. There's no precedent for that in fighting games. I also disagree with that overall. I think tournament endurance is part of the challenge of playing in a tournament, and it should be like it'd be kind of shitty. Like take this for example. Like let's say let's say I am seeded, right? I'm seeded to
Hmm.
some final like top 16 pool. And there's a guy who's really good. Let's say Lawsol is not seeded, right? So he has to go
Hmm.
through the pool. So he has this big fucking pool. He plays like 8 sets. I'm chilling. I'm like drinking Gatorade or whatever or Monster. I don't know. He gets to me after 10 fucking sets. He's tired as shit. I'm fresh, and I just blow him back, right? Or you can place me with any player. You can place me with Marlon. You can place me with any like super well known player outside of Guilty Gear specifically. just replace me with them. Imagine playing 10 sets and then having to play someone super good who's just refreshed and ready and like they haven't been any stress, any pressure, and like that's their first fucking set of the day, but you played 10 fucking sets. That I don't think that's fair. I think tournament endurance, part of the challenge of like an Evo type tournament or any large tournament is actually playing through the tournament. Once on a combo breaker, I pretty much flubbed my first set, right? And I
Mhm.
had to play 7 sets to get out of that pool. So I played 8 sets. I played 8 sets to get out of a pool. That's a lot of sets. If top 16 happened right after that, I would have had to play a total of 10 sets to make top 8, right? Um,
Mhm.
and you need the endurance to not just like you need that endurance is a very important thing.
On.
I think fighting
Oh.
player will tell you that, especially people who played at Evo, who got far.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just
That's a good point. I mean, I've never personally made it that far in a tournament before. I think a tournament with pools, I've never made it out of a pool before. Um, I've only ever gotten second at a tournament twice, I think, both locals. So I've never had to deal with like the endurance of a tournament, but I could definitely see it like burning you out after a while, especially with um, poorly organized tournaments where it's like it's one big bracket instead of pools. And so you kind of have to put a more block of your time just dedicated towards the tournament than, I don't know, sitting down and resting or going getting something to eat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But now that tournaments are a little more organized, you could just say, okay, for this 2 hours, all I have to worry about is playing. And then
Yeah.
after that, I can kind of like, go detox somewhere, not think about it too much, and then come back, be a little fresh or more fresh than you were, and then go again if you made it out of your pool.
Yes, I think his thing is like he has other shit to worry about, like he's talking about fan meets and stuff like that. Like I can't relate to that. Maybe like 3 or 4 people ask me for a picture at a tournament. I'm like, okay, not a big deal. But I can't imagine like the scope he has to deal with at like a big tournament with like mad people want like he won't take selfies with people. Like people will walk up to me and ask me for a picture, right? But he
Hmm.
he won't do it anymore. He's like, if you just go to the fan meet, like I can't have random people just coming up to me all the time. Like I can't handle that. So
Right.
his day is probably like honestly just really really full. So I kind of see where he's coming from, but at the same time, again, I think part of the skill because there's multiple skills in being a strong player, right? So like being able to win one game, being able to win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5, long sets like first to 5, 7, 10, etc. Being able to play under pressure, being able to play for long periods of time, being able to play that tournament endurance thing. Like there are multiple skills a player needs to be good. So he's kind of being like, oh, I just don't want to worry about this kind of thing. But that's one of the skills of being a competitive player is the endurance.
It's just
Like,
part of the game, right?
yeah, it's part of it. So I'm
Um,
not totally on the side, really. I'm still agree with like the fighting game players. Like I don't agree with that, but I
oh,
can see because of the background plus like what he has to go through in his day, why he would say something like
yeah, I wanted to bring up a pretty similar point I've seen people talk about with this regards about like how this relates to like esports and the idea of other events having like kind of qualifiers and things like that. And like I think I saw some people talking about things like the fact that the ability for you to be able to kind of play in the same pool as a top player and the ability to have the chance to like fight those people on the same
yeah,
even playing field is also kind of something that some people feel is like part of the fighting game identity. What do you guys think about that?
Hmm. I think
um,
that's true.
that's true. I totally agree with that. If you're thinking about it like esports, so if you're having some kind of like special invitational, like the New York Invitational that's coming up,
Hmm.
so like that's like okay, these are invited players. Not this is a closed tournament. Like not everyone can play.
Hmm.
But in a tournament where everyone can play, if you're keeping the top players in like this beyond bracket, like this top 32, top 16, top whatever bracket, and players who are trying to like come up and get experience don't have a chance to run into them in pools and get that experience, especially if those matches get recorded either on stream or like they have like the forethought to record the matches. If they like, how are they supposed to get the games, especially in like a serious setting too, like that? You need that experience. Like, how are you supposed to get those games? Like, fundamentally, how are you supposed to get those games? If that happened in Capcom, like, I'm not. This isn't the case for all like strong Capcom players, but for the most part, it's pretty hard to play a top Capcom player. It's not easy to play them. So one of the only chances you have is playing them in tournament. So like, if you excluded them further by putting them deep in the bracket by default, how are lower level players who want to improve supposed to get access to them besides money matching for like $50+ or whatever the fucking person says? I really don't agree with that at all.
Hmm.
Especially as someone who like really values like building skill and stuff, because it really hurts me when someone who's new or someone who's like kind of lower level and just starting plays me and they're like, oh, sorry for wasting your time, or like, do you have enough time to play me? Like, I'll play anybody, because I remember I had to go out of my way to play people who are
For
better than me.
sure. Definitely.
So, so if someone asks me who's new, asks me to play or asks me to play online or something, as long as I have the time, I'll say yeah. I'll just say yeah, let's play. It's fine. I'll play you. Like, I can make. I want to play too. Like, I take something from it too. You don't think you're wasting my time, but it's not the case. Again, I'm not dropping any names. I'm just saying overall, especially from like me dipping my feet a little bit, it can be hard to play top players in other games depending on the game. So if you exclude them even further by dumping them deep in the bracket, how are they supposed to get that chance to play them and get better? Because even if they improve to the point that they do get to them, then they have no experience to get them against them, and they still get blown out. So it's like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, being able to play against good players in tournaments good. I was spoiled with a good scene, a good Guilty Gear scene when I started playing. But for other scenes where if you don't have a lot of strong players, the only time you get to play like really, really strong players, like people that are winning tournaments, is at tournaments. And usually you have to travel to those tournaments. And that's your only chance to play those people. And so
Hmm.
them being accessible is, I think, means a lot to the scene. That's like the original point, right? That this is like an identity thing where everybody should be able to go to an event and be able to play anybody there or have the chance to play anybody there in the tournament. Right? That, yeah. I feel
I'm,
strongly about this.
I'm sure
I
other
agree.
stuff will feel differently from me. But that's my opinion. Like, I make time to hang out with my friends. I make time to play. When I'm playing, I will literally play everyone, because like, not only do I take away from playing like anyone at any skill level, but I also remember what it was like to be bad. Like, I remember very clearly what it's like to be bad, and there were a lot of videos of me when I was shit, playing against. I guess if it's multi-blood days, it's like getting my back blown out by Judah and Zard and shit, like trying to level up. So I remember both sides, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't like, unless it's for something like oh, like for what Mortal Kombat had at Combo Breaker, you know? So they had like the open tournament, but if you, I think it was the winner or the highest placed non-ESL person got to qualify for ESL, which is a closed tournament. That kind of
Mhm.
thing is okay, I think, because it's an
Yeah.
open tournament that lets you qualify for a closed tournament, which of course is going to be seeded by, I don't know, like points or record or like, so whatever. That kind of thing makes sense, but to have every fucking major be like that, because I think that's what he's implying. I really disagree with that. I hope that doesn't happen, because in the case of Melee is like a one of those real games like Guilty Gear and Street Fighter. It's old as shit, so it's already hard. It was hard enough getting good at that game in fucking 2007. I can't imagine starting that game now and be like, oh, I want to be the best. Starting now and having top players be inaccessible, like that. Oh my god, like I can't even fucking think about game that developed and how much shit you don't know about that game, like that people don't fucking know about that game. Like, Jesus Christ, I can't imagine how hard that would be.
No, good point. Did you Did you want to say anything on this, Brett?
I mean, I think what Steve said is really, really solid, and yeah, I have to agree with a lot of what he's saying. I think the only thing I wanted to maybe bring up was part of, I think, some of the points that maybe not exactly what Leffen has said, but I think other people have brought them up is the idea of like logistics. Like, I wanted to say hypothetically, let's say something crazy happens, like Obama loves Street Fighter or something really random, and like let's just say out of nowhere, like the amount of attendees at Evo, like increases by like tenfold. Like, would
Yeah, it's
what would
it's
you do? Do you think there's a line that can be crossed where you start to need to have some qualifiers or something? Or because what the way I think of it is, like, if we're gonna kind of compare it to something like sports, right? I mean, I think the reason why fighting games can do this is because our numbers are so small, right?
yeah. I understand that question.
Like if the size increased, I think going like the season route, like an MLG, would be like the best way.
Mm-hmm.
Like open tournament to closed tournament, like local open tournament into closed finals, I think would be the way to go.
Mm.
Yeah, you would have to have finals at another time, and I
I
think
really,
yeah, and if that happens, I think you would still be able to do like our prize thing, where that there are so many people entered that like companies actually want to be involved with this, so they will
Right.
give money as prize. Because I think the big thing that happens is when you start doing like open tournament, closed tournament, how do you get prizes for that closed tournament? Because right now we use the money people use to enter as the pot, as the prize pot for the open tournament. So if you went to the closed tournament, who's giving the prize money for that?
Right.
Or there could even be the chance that the the prize pot for the closed tournament is smaller than the one for the open. Like,
Mm.
imagine that. Like, if NEC did that, right? And the prize bonus was $1,000 for the closed, but then over 200 people entered for the open. All the people sitting there in top eight would be like, "What the hell?" You know? Like, what gives?
Right.
I don't know. So I think at some point, yeah, it could become a thing, but not right now. I think in the future, yeah, logistically we might have to change. That's a good point. But damn, there'd have to be a lot of people.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
tournament would
obviously, it's
be
not a problem that
nuts.
is coming anytime soon, but just kind of thinking about, where do you draw the line, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the cannons probably might have looked into something like that.
I'm sure they have a
Where,
plan because they're on that.
yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, we need to go to a convention center now. So they went to a convention center. Is it possible? Is it actually possible to outgrow a convention center for a tournament? I'm not sure if it's physically possible.
could be
I mean, that's a lot of people.
7 games, and if they have 7 games and half of those games have more than 1,000 unique entrants, like, whoa,
I think you
whoa.
have to understand like how many people go, like how many people can fit inside a convention center, Steve.
Yeah, those are competitors alone. Because it's not like Evo has like fucking fans, like people who don't play at all. They just show up.
Oh,
Like, last
oh yeah, there
Evo,
are a lot of people, yeah, like that,
last
yeah.
Evo, I think there were 8,000 spectator only people.
Yeah, I would have to look at like how many people go to PAX or something, or like
Yeah.
Comic Con. Like how many people go to these conventions? Like what's the
What the
cap?
fuck?
I don't even know like how many people are even allowed in the building.
Hmm.
You know, because that's when like as soon as you start like pushing the fire marshal shutting shit down, that's when you probably have a problem.
I do, yeah.
Um, but let's move on to the final topic, which is also about seating. Um, but this is more of a philosophical discussion. on what's proper seeding, I guess. I think I've talked, like, Brett, you and I have helped seed a couple tournaments now. Steve, you've been the
You did.
the victim
The C
of
did.
seeding. Yeah, you have been the victim many times of seeding. So I think well, I already know how you feel about this, Steve, because I've talked to you about it a lot to try and get some insight on what players think. But I think you could be an outlier in the fact that you're just like, I will play anybody, right? You will get tight that you're in a death pool, but at the same time, you're a competitor, and one that wants to win at that. So you realize that you might have to play everybody at the tournament that's good anyway. So when you have to play them is a little irrelevant, but you're still like, okay, I'm gonna have to play. Let's just do it. Like, put me anywhere. Like, I think a couple times I've gotten pissed at you because you've signed up late, like you didn't pre-reg, and then I'm just like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, now I can't seed you, and you're just like, no, I don't care. I don't care. Just put me wherever. I'll play whoever. And I'm like, motherfucker, like, fuck you, Steve. But then I have these other people that, God forbid, they're like 3 matches up from their friend, and I will just get like shit the whole tournament or on Twitter or something. Like, it's just it's so different between people.
Yeah,
that,
they're.
yeah, like, I'm not sure if we should still cater to the lowest common denominator,
No.
which to me is like the scrubs that are like, I don't want to play, like, everybody in my pool needs to be unique. Like, I need to have never played them once, you know?
It's so funny, like these people who don't even can't fucking get out of pools or complain about seating. Like, what the fuck, dude?
No, even people that can, let's do this. Let's not complain about the casual players that don't want to play their friends. Let's talk about the people that can consistently make it out of pools like more than 50% of the time, and they want an easy pool. So if they're in a pool with another good player, or in a pool with one of their friends, they get tight. Do you think they have a reasonable argument?
This is my thoughts as a player. I am not speaking from the TO side like you guys. So I don't think I know I said I'll play anyone. That's my real thought. Like, because I'm thinking about winning the tournament, so you shouldn't have to think, oh, if I get this combination of players, I could win. You should be like, oh, I need to beat anyone in my way, because like you have a path, and players just going to be in your path. You need to be ready for whatever. That's why I have that thought. Because or at least in my experience, I never get like the nice path. I think I might get maybe once a year. I get a really nice, friendly path to the end of it. Most of the time, I get the worst possible combination for me of things, and it's like many, many, many. Here's a good one that everyone knows: BBCS2, Evo. I remember specifically thinking, man, I'm not that good against Bang. Dacid and Huey are both going. It would be really shitty if I got both of them in my pool. And not only did I have both of them in my pool, but they were both on my side of the pool too. I had to get both of them to get out, right? And I did. I did it, and I beat them both, and it was good. But that's a case of, oh, it would be really shitty if this happened, and it happened. So you can't, and I can't control that either because they're both West Coast. So I can't be like, oh, uh, why don't you move these guys? I have no input for that. That being said, I don't think, for example, especially as like more people are getting sponsored and stuff, I don't think people like on the same team should play each other early, like in pools. I don't think friends or people from the same area at a major at least should play each other in pools. If it happens, it happens. As far as friends go, team should be split up for sure. It like when you're in like a top 16 or something, if you have to play like if 2 Panda Global people or 2 EG people have to play, then like tough luck. Like you're in a tournament with 800 people and you run into your boy in top 16 and you're tight. Like get the fuck out of here, dog. You play like 8 sets. Like what do you want? There's barely anyone left. You
Yeah.
know? I think that is probably as far as the problem of seeding. If there is a problem with seeding, it's the person who gets out of pool sometimes. They are probably one of the people who care the most because they need a good path to get out. Like if they get a bad draw, they won't get out. If they get a good draw, they'll definitely get out.
On
So they
Steve.
probably care about a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You started
So
cutting out a little bit, Steve.
No, I heard him.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Then my phone
Yeah.
sucks.
um, should I say that again? Do you want me to say?
No,
say it
go
again?
go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
you're
for it.
good.
They care. The people who have problems getting out pools and the people who have problem making top 8 consistently, they are the people who care about seeding the most because whoever they pull in that pool / that top 16 pool, that could determine whether or not they move on because they're not consistent enough to do it. So they probably care about it the most, but like you shouldn't cater to them because once you get to that point, it's like, well, you cut out like 80% of the tournament at this point. Like if we're talking about the amateur, semi-pro, pro bracket MLG thing, then if you're in top 16, you're in the second bracket. Like you're like, you shouldn't be catered to really at this point. The pools are set up so that like we are assuming who's going to get out. So once we get all those people together, it just is what it is from that point on. Once you get past pools, seeding shouldn't. You shouldn't be so worried about seeding or to get out of pools, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, I guess maybe I could speak a little about it from like a more of a TO perspective, or at least like the way I think of it is, yeah, it sucks when people complain for sure, but at the same time, I think at the end of the day, I think all that I really care about is that things were seeded as best they could. So I don't necessarily think that it's wrong to complain about your friend and you being like pretty close to each other. Like, yeah, making a big deal out of it is not cool, or like causing a scene or like being a dick about it. Like, yeah, obviously that's uncalled for, but like from my perspective, if I'm seeing an event, like I don't necessarily have any problem with people saying that they think that X is a problem because a lot of the cases it's not that hard to adjust. It's more just like, oh, now I have to do this again, and it takes some time. And usually the tension comes from when people are doing this like before the tournament starts, and like there's nothing that can be done, or it'd be a pain in the ass, and you have to redo all the brackets. Like I don't really feel like, I at least personally, like I don't really mind anyone complaining about a bracket if I'm like say posting it like a week before or like 2 weeks before. And obviously that definitely does happen to Evo, right? It's like they release those brackets like pretty early, then people complain, right? People just say XYZ, and then the stuff gets moved, right? I mean, that's kind of like the natural process because whoever's seeding it isn't going to know everything, not going to be omnipotent about it. So I think for me it's just like my opinion on the matter is like that it's a two-way street, right? It's like yeah, like you're kind of entitled to, in my opinion, like give input and say that you think that you and your friend should not be here. Like, yeah, that's cool because like there's no reason for it to have to be that way unless it has to be that way. But at the same time, it's like the guy doing the seating is just trying to do his job too, and he's probably volunteer. And basically, it would be nice if both parties kind of were conscious of everything involved.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of competitors don't know what goes into seeding.
Yeah, for sure.
An event and how difficult it is. It's gotten easier with software and people you can hire to do it for you.
Cough,
such as
cough.
Curly W. Yeah, and but one of the things that has always bothered me was we always try and base it off of skill, probably as much as possible, right?
Right.
And tournament placing is tough because a lot of the times we don't have the same people at every tournament.
Yep.
So it's like if somebody sits out a tournament, what happens to their standing? If they switch characters, what happens to their standing? Do you still seed them based on their old character or their new character? And there are a bunch of other questions, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's very it's very subjective on who is seeding, on how the final bracket plays out. And I feel like sometimes I have felt like even though I'm totally unbiased when I seed, I still think there's a little bit of like passive bias in me, and that has made me want to do random seeding at a lot of tournaments I've run because it just bothers me that I'm not being 100, like I'm probably like 99.99999% fair. But there's that little bit of unfairness that could possibly sneak its way in because the bracket's not quote unquote perfect.
Right.
But then I think like if you make a bracket perfect, then you're not being true to what a competition is supposed to be, and that's find the best player. Are you supposed to cater to the people that have placed well in the past? Are you supposed to seed those people? Does that actually make the tournament better? Does it make the tournament more fair? I don't know. This is something that's bothered me on more than one occasion.
You're talking about just the idea of the concept of seeing of itself and the idea that you're trying to construct a predictable outcome, basically.
Yeah, it's
right?
like...
And it's like, what does that actually mean, right? Like, is that even something we should be thinking about?
Yeah, is that fair? At the root of it, is it fair? I don't know.
It's really hard. I mean, yeah, it's in a lot of ways. I feel like the reason we do it is to kind of cater to competitors, right?
Yeah.
Because what happens when you do random
that.
seed is the tournament necessarily like a shitty tournament? Like, I mean, I guess it can be, but I think what's far outweighs that is like the number of people who complain, right? Like, for sure. Like, for every one guy that says, yeah, that random seed tournament had some whack top 8, you're gonna have like 20 people being like, dude, like these guys kill each other in like round 1 winners. Like, why were all these guys from the same region all in one pool, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think at least it's a really hard question to answer. And I think the answer is no, it doesn't actually matter. But
I think seeding does kind of matter though. Like there are two examples I could drop really easily. There was a tournament where I played a player called South Korean Dictator, round 1 or something. I think it was round 2, so I played like some guy round 1, don't remember. Then I had to play South Korean Dictator. If anyone has a good enough brain right now to think about South Korean Dictator, that's SKD. So I played SKD winners round 2. And set him to losers winners round 2, like super fucking early in the bracket. And that will fuck so much shit up when you have someone like super good.
Right. But so what I'm saying is like it fucks it up in kind of like a subjective way, but it's like as a competition itself, I think is what Alan's trying to say. Like, just like from the definition of a competition, is it necessarily a problem? And I'm saying I think it's just more of like all the external things.
Right. I see what you're saying.
Do you get what we're saying, Steve? It's like, should seeding even be a thing? Because if we're trying to predetermine the outcome, is that being fair?
Like, basically, it's like, yeah, that sucked for you, and that sucked for SKD, and that sucked for like a lot of people. That sucked for a lot of people, but like, you know. I mean, I guess the real question is, it's like, what is competition, right? It's like, you know, I mean, it's like basically, if there was some god of competition watching us random seed, would he get mad at us for random seeding? And so, I think what Alan and I are trying to say is, the god of competition probably wouldn't get mad, but everyone else would get mad.
Yeah.
Well, seeding is a tennis thing, right?
I don't know, but I mean, I don't know anything about tennis, but it's definitely a thing, like, in general, like.
No, in a lot of sports, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Especially when you get out of, I think playoffs. Yeah, once you get to the playoffs, I think seeding starts to become a thing, and I think it is a thing in soccer and tennis as well.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it's just more about like, why introduce a random factor to a competition than a non-random factor.
Right.
I think that's maybe the better way we should be looking at it.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
if we
yeah,
have a
that's probably a better way
process
to
to
word it.
order participants, that's probably better than leaving up to randomness.
Because I thought the point of seeding was to, yeah, make sure that, because was to ensure that the bracket was set up in a way that the best competitors. Well, I'm saying this in a weird way. The bracket is set up in a way that the best competitors would not run into each other and skew the results.
Yeah, yeah. So I think what Alan's trying to say is kind of a chicken and egg thing because it's like you're doing an activity that's supposed to determine who's good, and you kind of if you
What
already
should
using a
seeding
pre-established
have
notion. I mean, I don't know. This whole conversation is kind of pretty philosophical. As
I
Alan,
know this is. I mean, I kind of prefaced it with that.
Yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
just kinda
No,
like,
you did.
this
You
is-
did. You did.
Like,
You know,
yeah.
this is something that's bothered me before, and it's bothered me because of both sides of the coin, because people have complained, and because I have thought about it a lot while seeding events. And
Yeah.
I'm like, am I actually doing a good thing? You know, and I think
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough that nobody thinks the way I do, and that nobody would ever think that seeding is unfair. I think some people will get nitpicky about how do we determine skill. We don't have, but nobody that I know takes. Let's just use Exert as an example. Nobody has taken all of the Exert results for the past 2 years and made a standing chart out of it that we could seed reliably off of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
I think
combines.
it's mostly done like kind of they play it by ear, like we know who's good, esque.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so so I mean that makes our seeding a little subjective. So it's not making a quote unquote perfect bracket, but it is making like a good bracket, not a lopsided bracket. It's
Right.
pretty even, is what
I
we
mean-
try and pull off.
My second seeding story, by the way, is Evil 2013 Persona. My original
yeah.
track was me
You and
versus
Yume.
round one.
Yeah, I remember that.
They changed it after everyone put feedback on it, and well, you know what
Yeah,
happened.
it had grand finals first round. Sweet.
First round.
You know, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's some shit.
For something like that, I think it might be okay.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a discussion that doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, you
But
just run
that's-
it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
A
I think
little
for
bit.
people, if you guys are listening right now, if you're watching the recording later, definitely hit us up and tell us what you think about this subject, because it's a pretty open-ended subject. I don't think anyone's
Yeah.
right or wrong about it.
Yeah, I think like from a TO perspective, putting everybody in a random number generator and pushing a button would be the easy. Oh my God, you wouldn't need any You wouldn't need any software. You could seed a tournament in 2 seconds. Like, it would make tournaments so much easier to run. But at the same time, I think it would make the competitor experience bad. So I think
Yeah.
there's like a halfway point where people just have to meet and kind of get along, where it's like, yeah, I know seeding's going to be at least a little bit subjective, unless you get stuff to like Capcom Pro Tour,
Yeah.
stuff like that, where there's points that determine your seeding. But hey, this guy has won a lot of events. I think he should get seeded, but at the same time, I don't think you should seed everybody in the tournament. There is like a little bit of randomness to it.
Yeah,
You
I
can't
think
seed absolutely everybody.
I think I mentioned this on the anime podcast yesterday, but like I basically said that I think basically from now on for Exert, like I came to the conclusion that I think from now on to seed Exert, it should just be only by results, like completely objective. Because the reason why I reached that conclusion is I think I came to the conclusion that I feel the level has gone up enough and there's enough diversity overall that I want to think that we're at the point now where we don't need to just seed our mans, and we shouldn't feel pressured to, worry about secret S tier gods, dudes who should be seeded, dudes who we think are seeded but shouldn't be because you don't think they're that good, blah, 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 blah. I think like the level has reached a point now, I think, where we can actually just comfortably work from results and not have to worry about that. And I think it would
Because to
be
be honest,
A-okay.
we have like more than a year's worth of like top eight. Like remember
Yeah.
that chart I posted like
Mm-hmm.
maybe for TFC of all the top eights?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can do that. Like you can do that now. That would be what? We have 15 months worth of majors at this point. Like
Yeah.
you could do that. You can
Yeah,
determine
but I
average
think
place.
I think locals matter too.
Locals do matter, but like if you
There's
take
obviously a weighting. There's like a
So,
weight to it.
like locals
yeah,
matter, but so my point is I think the scale we've reached is a good enough point that yeah, we could worry about that, but it's like it's not like before where people would get mad and
Oh,
riot
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
no one like it basically like let's say the next I don't know what the next major is CEO.
CL, yeah.
Like let's say CEO Exert, they just seed only by major results,
Mhm.
just objectively
How
by
far,
the numbers. I don't think people would really complain.
how far back though? Just this year alone, or
Just yeah,
last year?
just this tournament season, quote
If
unquote tournament season.
you can include it last year, like I hate to use myself as an example, but like at the beginning of last year, I didn't make any top eights at all. Like not until ECT I started really consistently getting top eight and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't go too far back because like there could be a difference in skill depending on how far back you go.
Yeah, no,
Right?
no, no, no. So I definitely
Back
think
enough,
that there is a
winning
different
everything.
skill. Yeah,
Yeah. But now
yeah,
like Evan Shadow's not winning everything. He's coming like fifth or seventh now,
yeah,
as
for
opposed to
sure. You know, there is a difference.
yeah. No, but I agree with you. You could actually, it's possible. There's so many majors. Exert always has like at least like 80 people, and there are enough tournaments often enough that you could just be like, well, like like Marlon has been at like 5 or 6 events. He's won like 3 of them. Or like Lost Soul's been like 5 events. He got like fourth or like 3 events, I think. He got like no 4. So he like won 2, got second at one, and he got fourth at the other. Or like I usually get third or fourth. Like you can do that.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a cool thing. That'd be an interesting thing because that would be the first time that has ever been done for an anime game.
Yeah.
Usually they here. I know the original Persona season they had quote unquote seed points, but it wasn't really. They only seeded 4 people at Evo, so it wasn't like that serious. They didn't keep track the way they did a Street Fighter.
Hmm.
So it'd be an
Right.
interesting experiment to say the least.
Yeah. I don't know. Something to discuss. I think for the
Forward,
future.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's easily possible to do that now.
Yeah. I mean, Revelator just started, so I think it would be easy. I think to just start with Revelator
Hmm.
rather than go back too far into Sign.
Yeah.
But okay. I think we're at a good spot to stop. We went we're about like an hour and 15 minutes almost. Don't want to make this too long. We got a complaint on the first one we did that was like 2 hours long.
How long was it?
The first one we did, episode 0, was roughly 2 hours long, I think.
People complain? I listen to 3-hour podcasts.
Yeah, it was just I wanted to make this to be kind of like you can listen to on your lunch break or something.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
like you just listen to it today. You don't need to take a bunch of time out to be able to see what we talked about. And I think people like the shorter format, so try and keep it there.
Cool.
So yeah, thanks, Steve.
Problem.
I don't know.
Hit me up whenever.
Yeah, for anybody wanting to contact Mr. Lord Knight, even though probably everybody here follows him already, he's at Lord Knight.
Lord Knight BB. It's on the layout. It's
If you
not in
don't,
the
Oh
please
yeah,
follow
title.
you
me.
did put him on the layout.
If you don't, please follow me on Twitch. I know there are people who might not follow me on Twitch. We're on our way to get the partner, so the more follows,
Yeah,
the better.
Do
Thanks a
it.
lot.
do it. Follow him on Twitch. Are you Lord Knight BB on Twitch as well?
It's just Lord Knight. I managed
It's
to
just
get
Lord Knight
that.
on Twitch.
Yeah.
Mm,
I had
okay.
that forever. Forever. That counts old as fuck.
All right, got anything you want to say? Anybody? Final words? Good podcast.
Yeah,
Pat
good
yourself on the back.
podcast.
Go have a
Good
beer.
one. I wish I
All
had a
right.
beer.
Yo, come through.
Yeah, we're going to Joe's tomorrow. So you
Shit.
know.
All right, whatever.
If you're-
We'll talk about that off the podcast. But thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks again, Brett, for
Yeah, we'll see you
streaming.
guys. I guess I think we're gonna try and get Rick.
Yeah, the Hotto on next week to talk about Combo Breaker.
Woo!
Just as an event, sort of.
Yeah.
Maybe ask him what he thinks of the anime fighting game scene. Just random questions. Throw them at him. See how he responds. He's a pretty cool guy here.
Yeah,
So,
I like his.
yeah, and his beard's got like. It's all right. Tune in next week, guys. Thanks again.
See ya.
See you guys.